The massive space station called Harmony's Reach floated in the empty space between three star systems. It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever built for peace talks. Golden walls stretched for miles, filled with gardens from 100 different worlds. Water fountains played music that sounded like home to every species that heard it. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the main window, watching three enormous fleets approach the station. Each fleet belonged to one of the three alien powers that had been fighting each other for 20 years. The war had killed billions of people across hundreds of planets. Today, maybe, it would finally end. "They're all here," said Admiral Chen Nakamura, joining Elena at the window. The old military man looked tired. He had seen too many wars in his lifetime. The Corvan Empire ships look like floating fortresses. The Zephyrian Collective brings those sleek white vessels that remind me of sharks and the Veltar Hegemony fleet. Those ships are so old they were probably flying when humans were still living in caves. Dr. Sarah Kim walked up behind them, carrying a tablet full of notes about alien biology and culture. "I've been studying their languages and customs for months. This is our chance to really understand them, and for them to understand us." Elena nodded. The three aliens had invited humanity to help with these peace talks because humans were new to space politics. Earth had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. The aliens thought humans would be fair and honest brokers for peace. They also thought humans were weak and harmless. "Remember," Elena told her team, "we're here to listen and help. These three powers have technology and armies that could destroy Earth without breaking a sweat. We need to be careful and respectful." The first aliens to arrive were the Corvan. They looked like giant bears that walked on two legs with thick fur and claws that could tear through metal. Their leader, War Commander Thexval, stomped into the meeting room wearing heavy armor covered in battle scars. "Humans," he growled, in a voice like grinding stone. "You are small and soft. Why should we listen to you about war and peace?" Elena smiled politely. "Because sometimes it takes someone outside a fight to see solutions that the fighters cannot see." The Zephyrians came next. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin and large black eyes. Everything they touched turned into complex patterns of light and sound. Their leader, Prime Logic Kelnoth, spoke in mathematical equations that were translated into words. "Humans show interesting neural patterns," Kelnoth said, studying Elena with those huge eyes. "Your brain chemistry is chaotic but functional. Perhaps this chaos will help find order in our conflict." The last to arrive were the Veltar. They were ancient beings that looked like living crystals shaped into the form of tall, graceful people. Elder Morthana moved like flowing water and spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Young humans," Morthana whispered, "you have lived among the stars for such a short time. We have been fighting since before your species discovered fire. What wisdom can you offer beings who are older than your civilization?" Elena had prepared for this question. Fresh eyes sometimes see what experienced ones miss, and sometimes the youngest voice in the room asks the most important questions. The peace talks began in the grand hall of Harmony's Reach. The three alien delegations sat at separate tables arranged in a triangle. The human team sat in the center, trying to find common ground between species that had been killing each other for decades. The first day went well. Everyone was polite. They shared stories about their homeworlds and their cultures. Elena learned that the Corvan valued strength and honor above all else. The Zephyrians believed that logic and efficiency could solve any problem. The Veltar thought that ancient wisdom and patience were the keys to understanding the universe. On the second day, they started talking about the real problems. The Corvan wanted to keep the planets they had conquered during the war. The Zephyrians demanded access to rare minerals that only existed in certain star systems. The Veltar insisted that several worlds were sacred to their ancestors and could never be shared with others. "This is where it gets difficult," Admiral Nakamura whispered to Elena during a break. "Each side wants something the others cannot give up." Elena spent hours with each delegation, listening to their concerns and trying to understand what they really needed versus what they simply wanted. She discovered that the Corvan were actually afraid of appearing weak. The Zephyrians worried that their homeworlds were running out of resources. The Veltar were terrified that their ancient culture would be forgotten in a modern galaxy. On the third day, Elena thought she had found a solution. She proposed a system where the three powers would share certain territories and resources. The Corvin would get respect and recognition for their military strength by becoming protectors of trade routes. The Zephyrians would get mining rights to asteroids and dead planets that nobody else wanted. The Veltar would be honored as teachers and historians for the whole galaxy. This could work, Dr. Kim said excitedly. Each species gets what they actually need, not just what they think they want. The three alien leaders seemed interested. They asked questions and made small changes to the proposal. For the first time, in 20 years of war, they were actually talking to each other instead of shooting. But Elena noticed something strange. During breaks, she sometimes caught the aliens looking at each other with expressions she couldn't read. There were quiet conversations that stopped when humans walked by, small gestures and signals that seemed to mean something important. "Admiral," she said to Nakamura on the evening of the third day, "do you think they're hiding something from us?" The old soldier frowned. "I've been in enough negotiations to know when people aren't being completely honest. But I can't figure out what they might be hiding. They all seem genuinely tired of fighting each other." Dr. Kim had been studying recordings of the aliens' body language and vocal patterns. "There's definitely something they're not telling us, but maybe it's just old habits. These three species have been enemies for so long that trusting each other might be difficult." On the fourth day, everything seemed to come together. The three alien leaders agreed to Elena's modified peace proposal. They would sign the treaty in a grand ceremony the next morning. Representatives from dozens of other alien civilizations were coming to witness the historic agreement. Elena felt proud and hopeful as she prepared for bed that night. Humanity had helped broker peace between three mighty civilizations. Earth would be respected throughout the galaxy as a place of wisdom and fairness. She had no idea that in meeting rooms across the station, the three alien leaders were having very different conversations. "The humans suspect nothing," War Commander Thexval said to his counterparts through a secure communication channel. "Their neural patterns show complete belief in our performance." Prime Logic Kelnoth confirmed. "They think we actually intend to sign their treaty." Elder Morthana's crystalline form glowed with satisfaction. "Then tomorrow we end the human problem before it becomes too large to handle. Their fleets are positioned exactly where we need them." The three leaders had been secretly planning this moment for months. The peace talks were never about ending their war with each other. They were about eliminating humanity before the young species could become a real threat to galactic order. Elena fell asleep that night dreaming of a peaceful galaxy. She had no idea that she and her team had less than 12 hours to live. Elena woke up feeling excited. Today was the day that three alien civilizations would sign a peace treaty and end 20 years of war. She put on her best diplomatic uniform and walked to the grand ceremony hall with Admiral Nakamura and Dr. Kim. The hall was beautiful. Hundreds of alien dignitaries filled the seats, representing dozens of different species from across the galaxy. News reporters floated around taking pictures and recording everything for history. The three alien leaders sat at a magnificent table made from crystal and gold. "This is amazing," Dr. Kim whispered. "We're about to witness the most important peace treaty in galactic history." Elena walked to the center of the hall, carrying the treaty documents. She had worked so hard on these papers, finding ways for three enemies to become friends. Her heart felt warm thinking about all the lives that would be saved. Representatives of the Corvin Empire, the Zephyrian Collective, and the Veltar hegemony, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Today we end a war that has caused too much pain and death. Today we choose peace." War Commander Thexis Val stood up slowly. The massive bear-like alien looked around the room with his small, cold eyes. "Yes, Ambassador Vasquez. Today we end something that has caused too much pain and death." Something in his voice made Elena's stomach feel cold. This didn't sound like a happy moment. Prime Logic Kelnoth rose next, his tall, thin body casting strange shadows. "We have indeed identified the source of galactic instability. Mathematical analysis is complete. Elder Morthana flowed upward like water becoming crystal. The ancient prophecies have been consulted. The threat has been identified. Action must be taken. Elena looked confused. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Are you ready to sign the peace treaty? Thexval's lips pulled back, showing teeth like knives. There will be no treaty, human. There was never going to be a treaty. The hall became completely silent. Elena felt like the floor was disappearing under her feet. What do you mean? Prime Logic Kelnoth activated a holographic display that showed star maps and fleet positions. For 127 days, we have analyzed human expansion patterns, technological development, rates, and social integration capabilities. Conclusion: humanity represents an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. Elena's mind raced. Threat? We're here to help you make peace. We have no armies, no weapons that could hurt you. Elder Morthana's voice became sad but firm. Young, humans, you do not understand your own danger. You adapt too quickly, you learn too fast. You make friends with species that should remain separate. In 100 years, you will be everywhere. In 200 years, you will change everything. In 300 years, the galaxy will be more human than alien. Admiral Nakamura stepped forward, his hand moving toward his emergency communicator. This is madness. We came here in good faith to help you. Thexval laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Good faith. Yes, that is exactly the problem. You actually believed we wanted peace with each other. You cannot imagine that someone might lie to you about their intentions. This innocent trust makes you dangerous. Dr. Kim was frantically checking her tablet, trying to understand what was happening. The biological scans, the cultural analysis. You were studying us the whole time, not for peace talks, for war plans. Very good, little scientist, Kelnoth said with something like approval. We have been sharing data about human psychology, technology, and military capabilities for months. Your species has exactly 3 fatal weaknesses. You trust too easily, you feel too much empathy for others, and you always try to solve problems instead of eliminating them. Elena felt sick. The 3 fleets outside, they're not here for a peace ceremony. Correct, Thexval said. They are here to destroy every human ship, station, and colony in this sector. Your Earth will be next. We will end the human problem before it becomes too large to stop. Suddenly, alarms began screaming throughout the station. The lights flickered and the floor shook. Through the great windows, Elena could see flashes of weapon fire as the 3 alien fleets attacked the small human escort ships. You monsters, Admiral Nakamura shouted, pulling out his sidearm. Those ships have diplomats and scientists on them. Had. Elder Morthana corrected gently. Past tense. The attack was overwhelming and swift. The human ships had come for a peace ceremony, not a battle. They had no heavy weapons or battle armor. Within minutes, every human vessel in the area was destroyed or disabled. Helena watched in horror as escape pods were hunted down and destroyed by alien fighters. People she knew, friends and colleagues, were dying while she stood helpless in a room full of enemies who had pretended to be friends. The stations at New Geneva, Port Liberty, and Harmony Base are also under attack, Kelnoth reported, reading data from his communication device. Human colonial fleets have been eliminated. Mining operations have been captured or destroyed. Estimated human casualties, 2.7 million and rising. Dr. Kim was crying. Why? We never hurt anyone. We were trying to help you. That is precisely why you had to die, Elder Morthana explained. A species that wages war can be defeated by war. A species that conquers can be fought with conquest. But a species that helps others, that builds bridges between enemies, that solves problems through cooperation, such a species can only be stopped by elimination. The alien dignitaries in the hall were not shocked or upset. Many of them looked relieved. Some were actually smiling. Elena realized that this had been planned for a long time and most of the galaxy had agreed with it. You're all cowards, Elena said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. You're so Afraid of change that you're willing to commit genocide. Thexval shrugged his massive shoulders. Perhaps. But we will be alive cowards ruling a stable galaxy. You will be dead heroes floating in space. More explosions shook the station. Admiral Nakamura was speaking urgently into his emergency communicator, trying to warn Earth about the attack, but Elena could tell from his face that the communications were being blocked. No one will hear your warnings. Prime Logic Kelnoth said. No messages will reach Earth until our fleets arrive there in 6 days. By then it will be too late for humanity to prepare any defense. Elena looked around the room desperately. They were trapped on a station controlled by enemies, surrounded by alien fleets, with no way to warn Earth or escape. The peace talks had been a trap from the beginning, and humanity had walked right into it. But then Admiral Nakamura smiled, a cold expression that Elena had never seen on his face before. What's so funny, old man? Thexval growled. Nakamura looked directly at the alien commander. You think you've been so clever, planning this attack for months. You think you know everything about humanity, because you studied us for a few seasons. We know enough, Elder Morthana said. No, Nakamura replied quietly. You really don't. He pressed a final button on his communicator. Elena heard a soft beep, then nothing. What did you just do? Kelnoth demanded. Admiral Nakamura's smile became even colder. I sent a message that you cannot block or intercept, and in about 6 hours, you're going to learn why humanity has survived every attempt to destroy us for the last 1,000,000 years. Chatani, aliens looked uncertain for the first time since the betrayal began. Elena didn't understand what the Admiral meant, but she could see that his message had reached someone who had been waiting for exactly this situation, someone who was about to make the aliens very, very sorry they had chosen to betray humanity. Deep inside the asteroid belt around Earth's sun, Dr. Marcus Webb received Admiral Nakamura's final message. The signal came through channels that no alien technology could detect or understand. It was short and simple. Golden Branch is compromised. Execute Prometheus Protocol immediately. Marcus had been waiting for this message for 15 years, hoping it would never come. He stood in the control room of the most secret facility humanity had ever built. Around him, hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on projects that would terrify even the humans if they fully understood what they were creating. All teams, this is Control, Marcus announced over the hidden communication network. We have confirmation of alien betrayal. Prometheus Protocol is now active. Begin Phase 1 immediately. The message went out to secret bases hidden throughout the solar system. On the dark side of Earth's moon, massive doors opened in what looked like empty craters. In the deep ocean trenches, cities that had been disguised as underwater research stations began powering up weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Admiral Sarah Chen, the sister of the admiral trapped at the peace talks, stood on the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship. The ship was called Retribution, and it existed in a pocket of folded space that made it invisible to normal sensors. Around her, the secret fleet of Earth's real military prepared for a war that would decide the fate of human civilization. Ma'am, her communications officer reported, we're receiving activation codes from all hidden facilities. The Soul Defense Network is fully operational. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing alien fleet positions throughout human space. The enemy had been very thorough in their planning. They had attacked every known human outpost and colony. They thought they had caught humanity completely unprepared. They had no idea how wrong they were. Begin Phase 1, Sarah ordered. Send the recall signal. Across the galaxy, in places the aliens thought were empty space, human ships received the recall order. These were not the civilian vessels and light escorts that the aliens had so easily destroyed. These were the ships that humanity had been building in secret for 50 years, ever since first contact with alien civilizations. The human government had learned a hard lesson from Earth's own history. When a technologically advanced civilization meets a less advanced one, the less advanced one usually dies out. Humanity had pretended to be weak and peaceful, while secretly preparing for the day when the galactic community decided humans were too dangerous to live. In hidden facilities throughout the solar system, projects that pushed the boundaries of physics itself came online. Project Prometheus had been developing technology based on a simple discovery. Human brains worked differently than alien brains. Where alien minds followed logical patterns, human consciousness was chaotic and unpredictable. This chaos turned out to be exactly what was needed to interface with certain types of advanced technology. Dr. Webb stood before a machine that looked like a giant crystal surrounded by spinning rings of metal. This was the Quantum Cascade Drive, a system that could fold space and time in ways that alien mathematics couldn't even describe. It worked by having human operators think in patterns that made no logical sense, but somehow convinced reality to be flexible. Initiating Cascade Field, Dr. Webb announced. Around him, technicians whose minds had been specially trained to think in impossible ways began the process of turning the solar system into something much more than it appeared to be. The first alien scouts to investigate why human communication signals had stopped found something confusing. Earth's solar system looked exactly the same as before, but their instruments couldn't get accurate readings on anything. Space itself seemed unstable, as if the laws of physics were having trouble deciding how to work properly. Meanwhile, in dimensions that existed parallel to normal space, humanity's real fleet was mobilizing. Ships that were built using principles that alien science considered impossible were preparing to demonstrate why human survival instincts had kept the species alive through ice ages, asteroid impacts, and countless wars. President Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room deep beneath Earth's capital, watching displays that showed the true scope of human preparation. The aliens thought Earth had a population of 8 billion humans living on one planet. They were wrong on both counts. Earth's real population was 15 billion, with entire cities hidden in pocket dimensions, underwater facilities, and installations built inside asteroids. But more importantly, humanity had been spreading through space much more aggressively than anyone knew. There were human colonies in 17 star systems, human research stations in 43 others, and human observation posts watching every major alien civilization. Madam President, General Torres reported, all hidden assets are responding. The aliens have destroyed every facility they knew about, but they only knew about 30% of our actual presence in space. And our people at the peace talks? President Santos asked. Admiral Nakamura's final transmission included a full intelligence report on alien fleet positions, weapons capabilities, and coordination protocols. His sacrifice has given us everything we need to plan our response. President Santos nodded grimly. Elena and her team were probably dead by now, along with millions of other humans in the first wave of the alien attack. But their deaths would not be meaningless if humanity could turn this betrayal into the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. General, what is the status of the Prometheus weapons? General Torres checked his classified reports. All systems are online and ready. Dr. Webb's team has successfully tested the reality manipulation technology. Our ships can now do things that will make the aliens question everything they think they know about physics. The Prometheus weapons were humanity's most terrifying secret. They were based on the discovery that human consciousness could interface with quantum fields in ways that allowed limited control over fundamental forces. Human operators could convince gravity to work differently, persuade electromagnetic fields to ignore certain objects, or ask the strong nuclear force to take a break for a few minutes. And the other projects? The Lazarus Protocol is ready. If the aliens manage to destroy Earth, we can relocate our entire civilization to prepared sites in other dimensions. The Phoenix Initiative has established backup colonies that exist outside normal space-time. And the Omega Contingency. General Torres paused. The Omega Contingency can unmake entire star systems if necessary. President Santos felt the weight of the decision she was about to make. Humanity had always been a species that preferred to explore and build rather than destroy. But when faced with extinction, humans had always shown a willingness to do absolutely anything to survive. Send the message to Admiral Chen, she ordered. Execute the full response protocol. Show them what happens when you try to extinct humanity. The message went out through quantum channels that the aliens couldn't detect. In hidden bases throughout the galaxy, human operators began powering up weapons that operated on principles the aliens had never imagined. For the first time in galactic history, someone was about to learn that there were worse things than being conquered by humans. They were about to learn what it was like to be on the receiving end of human creativity, applied to the problem of making enemies regret their life choices. Though, aliens had spent months planning their perfect attack on humanity. They had no idea that humanity had spent 50 years planning for exactly this situation, and human plans were about to make alien nightmares look like pleasant dreams. For 3 weeks after the attack on the peace talks, the galaxy was eerily quiet. No human ships appeared on any alien sensor. No human communications were detected by any listening post. No human colonies sent out distress signals or surrender messages. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the universe. War Commander Thexval stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at reports from Corvan fleets across human space. All human installations have been captured or destroyed, his aide reported. No resistance encountered, no human military response detected. Thexval nodded with satisfaction. The humans were even weaker than we calculated. Their entire species collapsed after one coordinated attack. In the Zephyrian Collective's primary data center, Prime Logic Kelnoth was analyzing the results of the human elimination campaign. Statistical analysis confirms complete success, he announced to the Collective's ruling council. Human technological development has been terminated. Human cultural influence has been neutralized. Human biological expansion has been halted. Elder Morthana meditated in the crystal gardens of the Veltar homeworld, feeling the satisfaction of ancient prophecies fulfilled. The young Chaos Bringers have been silenced, she told the assembled elders. The galaxy can return to its proper, stable order. The 3 alien powers began dividing up human territories and resources. The Corvan claimed the military installations and mining operations. The Zephyrians took over human research facilities and technological databases. The Veltar assumed control of human cultural sites and historical archives. For 3 weeks, everything went exactly as the aliens had planned. Then the stars began going out. It started in the Corvan home system. Scientists monitoring their sun noticed something impossible happening. The massive star that had burned for billions of years simply stopped. Not dimmed, not cooled, not collapsed. It just stopped burning, as if someone had turned off a light switch. The Corvan homeworld of Thexera found itself in perfect twilight. The temperature remained exactly the same as before. The gravity worked normally. The atmosphere stayed breathable. But the sun had become a dark sphere hanging in space like a dead eye. Emergency fleets rushed back to investigate. What they found was even more disturbing than a dead star. Every living thing on Thexera was frozen in place. Not dead, not injured, just paused. Billions of Corvan civilians stood motionless in their cities, caught in the middle of whatever they had been doing when the sun stopped. "They're alive," reported Captain Grixnell from the Surface Investigation Team. "All life signs are normal. They're breathing, their hearts are beating, but they cannot move or speak. It's like someone pressed a pause button on the entire planet." War Commander Thexval received this report while his fleet was still 3 days away from home. "That's impossible. No technology in the galaxy can do something like that." His science officer, a nervous Corvan named Vextok, was studying sensor readings with growing fear. "Commander, our instruments detect no weapons, no energy signatures, no technological interference. According to every test we can run, nothing happened to our home system. But somehow our sun stopped burning and our people stopped moving." Similar reports began coming in from other Corvan systems. Suns going dark, planets full of frozen populations, space stations where time itself seemed to have stopped working. Always the same pattern. No weapons detected, no technology identified, no explanation for what was happening. The Zephyrian Collective faced a different but equally terrifying problem. Their primary data nexus, a planet-sized computer that controlled their entire civilization, began displaying the same message on every screen throughout their territory. You wanted to see how dangerous humans could be. Observation complete. The message appeared in every Zephyrian language, dialect, and mathematical notation system. It showed up on military computers, civilian devices, children's learning tablets, and even simple calculators. Most disturbing of all, it appeared on systems that weren't connected to any network and had never communicated with any other device. Prime Logic Kelnoth tried everything to stop the message. They shut down networks, destroyed infected computers, and even built entirely new systems from scratch. But every electronic device the Zephyrians created immediately displayed the same words. You wanted to see how dangerous humans could be. Observation complete. It's not a virus or a hack, reported Chief Technician Velnara. The message isn't being transmitted or programmed, it's just appearing, as if reality itself is telling us this. The Veltar hegemony discovered that their sacred worlds were being moved. Not attacked, not destroyed, but literally relocated to different star systems. Ancient planets that had orbited the same stars for billions of years were found floating in completely different parts of the galaxy. Elder Morthana stood in her meditation chamber, trying to understand reports that defied everything the Veltar knew about space and time. Velthara Prime has been relocated 847 light-years from its original position, her aide reported with a trembling voice. The planet is intact and undamaged. The population is safe. But the entire world is now orbiting a different star. How? Morthana asked. We don't know. There are no signs of technology capable of moving planets. No massive ships, no gravitational manipulators, no dimensional gates. The worlds are just somewhere else now. Even more confusing, the relocated planets were often placed in better locations than before. Worlds that had been dying from old, cooling stars were moved to orbit younger, more energetic ones. Planets with dangerous radiation levels were relocated to safer systems. It was as if someone was reorganizing the galaxy to make the Veltar more comfortable. They're taking care of us, whispered Junior Elder Kethuna. The humans are moving our worlds to protect them. This realization was more terrifying than any weapon could have been. On the 4th week after the human silence began, Admiral Sarah Chen's flagship Retribution finally appeared on alien sensors. The ship materialized in the neutral zone between the 3 alien powers broadcasting on all frequencies. The vessel looked wrong to alien eyes. It wasn't built according to any known principles of engineering. The hull seemed to flow like liquid metal while remaining solid. Parts of the ship appeared to exist in different dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that looked like crystallized. Mathematics extended from surfaces that bent light in impossible ways. Admiral Chen's message was broadcast in every alien language. Representatives of the Corvan Empire, Zephyrian Collective, and Veltar Hegemony. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Space Force. You have 72 hours to return every human under your control and formally surrender to Earth Authority. War Commander Thexval was the first to respond, his voice full of rage and confusion. Surrender your one ship. We have thousands of vessels. This is not a negotiation, Admiral Chen continued calmly. This is a courtesy. We are informing you of your options before we proceed with more direct measures. Prime Logic Kelnoth tried to scan the human ship with every sensor array available to the collective. The results made no sense. The vessel appears to exist in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. Our targeting systems cannot establish a lock. Our analysis suggests the ship is mathematically impossible. Elder Morthana felt the weight of ancient prophecies shifting around her. Her people's oldest stories spoke of young races that would one day surpass the old ones, but she had never imagined it would happen like this. What have you done to our worlds? She asked. Admiral Chen's response was simple and terrifying. We fixed some problems. We will fix more problems if you do not surrender. The next 72 hours will determine whether we fix your problems gently or thoroughly. The 3 alien leaders looked at their fleets, their weapons, their ancient technologies that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. Then they looked at their stopped suns, their relocated planets, and their electronic systems that showed messages they couldn't delete. For the first time in their long history, the 3 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy began to understand that they were no longer the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, and they had exactly 72 hours to decide whether they wanted to learn the difference between human kindness and human efficiency. The emergency meeting took place on a neutral space station that had been hastily prepared by terrified alien diplomats. War Commander Thexaval, Prime Logic Kelnoth, and Elder Morthana sat around a table for the second time in a month. But this meeting was very different from their secret planning sessions before the betrayal. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," Thexaval said, his voice no longer confident and threatening. "How did they stop our suns? How did they move entire planets? How did they make our computers display messages that shouldn't exist?" Prime Logic Kelnoth had spent sleepless days trying to analyze human technology. Initial calculations suggested human science was approximately 200 years behind our level. Current observations indicate they operate on principles we don't even have theories about. Elder Morthana's crystalline form glowed dimly with worry. "Our oldest records speak of races that transcended normal physics. We thought they were myths. Perhaps humans have achieved something that we cannot comprehend." The truth was more disturbing than any of them imagined. Intelligence reports were coming in from across the galaxy, and the picture they painted of humanity was nothing like what the aliens had expected. "Sir," Captain Grixnell reported to Thexaval, "our investigation of destroyed human colonies has revealed significant discrepancies. The facilities we attacked were incomplete." "What do you mean, incomplete?" "We destroyed research stations that contained no actual research. We captured mining operations that were extracting common metals instead of rare elements. We eliminated military bases that had no significant weapons or defenses." Captain Grixnell paused nervously. "Sir, I believe we destroyed decoy installations. The real human infrastructure was hidden from us." Similar reports reached the other alien leaders. The humans had deliberately shown them a version of human civilization that was weak, small, and easy to destroy. Meanwhile, the real human presence in space was vastly larger and more advanced than anyone had suspected. "How large?" Prime Logic Kelnoth demanded of his intelligence analysts. "Unknown, sir. Our previous estimates suggested 47 human installations across 12 star systems. Current evidence indicates at least 400 installations across 73 systems, with additional facilities in locations we cannot identify or access." But the most shocking discovery came when the aliens tried to investigate human history more carefully. They had assumed that humanity's rapid technological development was due to luck or alien assistance. They were wrong. "The three-way war between our peoples," Elder Morthana said slowly, reading the latest intelligence reports, "began 23 years ago with a trade dispute over mining rights in the Zeta Sagittarius system." "Yes," Thexaval confirmed. "My grandfather signed the agreement that started the conflict. According to these documents, that agreement was negotiated by a human trade representative named David Park." The room became very quiet. The Corvin-Zephyrian resource conflict in the Outer Rim was mediated by human diplomats. The Veltar-Corvin territorial dispute was resolved through a human arbitration process. The Zephyrian-Veltar technology transfer that destabilized the balance of power was arranged by a human consulting firm. Prime Logic Kelnoth's mathematical mind began processing the implications. "Statistical analysis indicates human involvement in 89% of major galactic political events over the past 50 years. Probability of coincidence, effectively 0. The aliens realized that their entire three-way war had been carefully managed by humanity from the beginning. Every major battle, every peace negotiation, every alliance and betrayal had been subtly influenced by human advisors, mediators, and consultants. They made us fight each other," Thexaval said with growing horror. "For decades they watched us exhaust our fleets and waste our resources fighting wars they helped us start. While they prepared for this moment," Morthana added, "they knew we would eventually turn on them, so they made sure we would be weak and divided when that happened." The 72-hour deadline was approaching, and the alien leaders were no closer to understanding how to fight an enemy that seemed to operate outside the laws of physics. Worse, they were beginning to understand that they had never actually been enemies of each other. They had been pawns in a human strategy that spanned decades. "We could try to unite our fleets," HFY suggested desperately. "Combined, we have over 50,000 warships." "Against an enemy that can stop stars and move planets?" Kelnoth replied. "Our weapons are designed to fight conventional targets. How do you shoot at something that exists in 17 dimensions?" The answer came when Admiral Chen arrived for the surrender ceremony. Her ship, the Retribution, appeared in normal space accompanied by the most terrifying fleet the galaxy had ever seen. The human vessels defied every principle of starship design. Some ships looked like they were built from crystallized music. Others appeared to be made of solid light held together by mathematical equations. A few seemed to exist as pure concept made manifest, ships that were the idea of ships rather than actual physical objects. But most disturbing of all were the human crews. When the aliens scanned the ships, they found that the humans aboard them were interfacing directly with their technology, not using computers or control systems, but thinking the ships into existence, willing the weapons to fire, dreaming the engines into motion. "This is impossible," whispered Kelnoth. "Biological consciousness cannot directly interface with quantum mechanical systems." "Human consciousness can," Admiral Chen replied, having heard his comment through communication, channels that shouldn't have existed. "You see, you made one critical error in your analysis of our species." The three alien leaders stood in the docking bay of Admiral Chen's flagship, surrounded by technology that hurt to look at directly. Elena Vasquez was with them, alive and unharmed despite supposedly dying in the peace station attack. "The error," Elena explained, "was assuming that the humans you met during the peace talks were representative of humanity as a whole." Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward, his eyes glowing with the after effects of interfacing with reality manipulation technology. "We are not a species that follows natural laws. We are a species that negotiates with natural laws. When physics says something is impossible, we ask physics to reconsider." War Commander HFY stared at human engineers who were casually repairing damaged sections of the ship by convincing the metal to remember its original shape. "How is this possible?" "Human neural architecture is fundamentally different from yours," Dr. Webb explained. "Your minds seek order, logic, predictable patterns. Our minds create chaos, find connections where none should exist, and imagine solutions to problems that don't have solutions." Admiral Chen led them to a viewing window that showed the three alien home systems. The Corvin suns were burning again. The Veltar worlds had been returned to their original positions. The Zephyrian computers were free of mysterious messages. "We fixed your problems," Admiral Chen said simply. "We could have done it differently. We could have made your suns go supernova instead of just stopping them. We could have dropped your planets into black holes instead of moving them to better orbits. We could have made your computers show much more disturbing messages." Prime Logic Kelnoth realized what she was saying. "You were being gentle with us. We were showing you our capabilities without causing permanent harm. This is how humans solve problems. We demonstrate that we can help or hurt. Then we offer to help." Elder Morthana felt the weight of ancient prophecies settling into place. "What do you want from us?" Elena stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "The same thing we wanted at the peace talks. An end to the war. Cooperation instead of conflict. A galaxy where different species work together instead of trying to destroy each other." "And if we refuse?" HFY asked. Admiral Chen smiled, but it was not a threatening expression. "Then we will continue to fix your problems until you realize that cooperation is more pleasant than resistance." The surrender ceremony was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The three most powerful alien civilizations formally acknowledged human authority, not through military conquest, but through the simple recognition that humanity operated on a level beyond conventional power. Durkee. New Galactic government wasn't a human empire. It was a human-guided confederation, where alien civilizations could focus on what they did best, while humans handled the problems that required thinking outside the laws of physics. Elena found herself appointed as the first human galactic coordinator, responsible for managing relationships between species that were still learning to trust each other. You know, she said to Admiral Chen as they watched the three alien fleets formally integrate into the human Space Force. I think this worked out better than our original peace treaty would have. Of course it did, Admiral Chen replied. The peace treaty was Plan A. This was Plan B. Humans always have a Plan B. Across the galaxy, dozens of other alien civilizations that had been secretly watching the conflict began sending diplomatic messages to Earth. They all wanted to know the same thing. How could they join the new order before humanity decided? They were a problem that needed to be fixed, and in the deepest reaches of space, humanity's real exploration fleets began emerging from hidden dimensions, ready to discover what lay beyond the known galaxy.